If you have been doing everything you know to do, but your body still feels different or harder to manage in menopause, I want you to hear this. Your body is not betraying you. Hey. I am Coach Drea. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you've been here before, I thank you so much for stopping back through. I am the owner of Temple Training and I help Christian women over 40 manage menopause by aligning their faith and learning to move and fuel so they actually enjoy this season of life. Let me let you know, I am in the trenches with you. And I have to say that menopause is not betrayal, as a lot of people start to verbalize when they're going through this season of life. You are not lazy, you're not broken. And again, it is not betrayal. Menopause just makes the body less tolerant to stress. And that is what I want to talk about today. Like, how can we manage this season of life to the best of our ability? When we think about our life leading up to this moment, stress is par for course. It is part of the journey, but the margin for error in this season of life is a bit smaller. What used to work no longer does. Stress, under eating, overtraining, it really does catch up to you quicker in this season of life. The body becomes more responsive and honest about what is happening. And I've experienced this firsthand over the last few months. And I want to talk to you about that today, how it showed up for me and how I'm walking through that even as we speak. So my knee pain here we are, right? This is 50. My knee pain began in November of 2025. And I promise you, it was not due to injury. I really wish I could say, like, I was squatting 300 pounds and this is how it happened. Not from injury, it just showed up. And that is so common in this season of life, to recognize that joint pain, muscle pain, inflammation, it can be part of this journey. And what happened for me was frustration. Okay. I've been CrossFit training for over a decade here. And so this is like how I train. This is the way that I work out. And so frustration kind of immediately set in, because I was thinking to myself, is this now the time that my training has to stop? Will this hinder me from being able to train? And if you know anything about me, you have to understand that this is part of my stress management routine, to get into the gym and to get in a high intensity workout. I definitely had the desire to push through. Let's just do it anyway and see what happens. Or even stepping back and asking myself, why now? Why is this showing up now? I definitely asked myself that question as well. My knee, though, was not betraying me, just like we talked about in the beginning. It's not betrayal, it was communicating. And so I had to take a step back and figure things out. And this is what I did not do. I didn't stop moving, because my knee is not the only part of my body that I can move. I didn't ignore it, try to keep pushing through, almost punishing my body because my knee was not happy. But listening, like I said, did not listening to my body does not mean avoiding. It just meant I had to make a couple of adjustments. I had to learn what it truly meant to partner with my body, because partnership does require adjustment and not avoidance. I want you to hear that clearly, because sometimes in this season of life, we tend to shrink back and just say, I cannot, instead of asking ourselves better questions like, what can you do in this moment? This is where a lot of women get stuck because they just put themselves on the shelf per se and say, I just can't do that anymore. And that's not always the case. Again, asking better questions is very important in this season of life. So, what movement adjustments did I make in this over this last 3 months or so? Definitely reducing my high intensity workouts. So, generally speaking, I was in a space where I was doing high intensity workouts, probably 4 to 5, sometimes six days a week. And that was just par for course. So, I mean, they fluctuated. So, some were so longer, some were shorter, but high intensity workouts had to be reduced. And I had to replace them with more slow, controlled, strength focused workouts. I didn't want to lose my gains. I don't want to be in a position where I couldn't work out. It was just trying to find a way to train smarter, more intentional movements, but movement nonetheless. I had to modify movements instead of eliminating them. And I think that that is key as well. Yes, it was a knee problem, but when did it show up was the question. Maybe it showed up during squats. And so the lower body movements had to be modified so that I could still get in lower body work, but I couldn't necessarily do loaded squats. Let me tell you something else. Adding daily stretching to the routine became non negotiable. This is something that I probably would say, maybe a good warm up would happen on a regular basis, but cool downs were always optional. It depended on time, if I had enough time at the end of the workout to get those in. But in this season, over these last couple of months, I developed a stretch routine that became non negotiable. After every workout, there was a built-in stretch afterwards because that's what my body needed. Healing requires really looking at the total body. I didn't stop moving. I moved differently. In moving differently or evaluating what the body needed, making those adjustments, I have to say that healing requires supporting the whole system. And what do I mean by that? I can't isolate my symptoms to just movement alone. And I know that that sounds absolutely crazy, but I really had to think about what else impacted what was going on with my lower body. For example, nutrition. I took a step back to evaluate, and I generally track food. Maybe at one point it was kind of a loose track. I didn't record everything and say on MyFitnessPal, but I had a sense of what I was consuming. So I was able to take inventory of what I was intaking from a nutritional perspective. I had to evaluate whether the food that I was consuming supported or help to eliminate inflammation or reduce inflammation in the body. So, some of the foods that I totally enjoyed, I needed to reduce or eliminate temporarily. Like you guys, if you've been around for a while on my YouTube channel, you know that I'm not a fan of restriction because then those are the things that you're going to crave more. But reduction for sure was par for course. What does that mean? Foods that were highly processed. So dining out, I had to make a pact with my husband for sure that we reduce that to maybe just Friday nights or maybe just Saturday nights and not try to blow it out for the whole weekend, which sometimes can happen. And he was in a full agreement. So again, part of my environment, I had to check on who else was in my circle just to make sure that I had the support that I needed there. And of course, that was challenging. It was super challenging. And I can tell you, it really wasn't a physical challenge. This was a mental or an emotional challenge for me because it meant that I had to really focus on what the priority was here. Was the priority eating that cookie for that treat, especially when you're having a mood? Was eating that cookie top priority or was reducing the inflammation in my body the top priority? I had to always keep my why in front of me for sure when it came to the foods that I consume. Another part of the whole system that I had to take a look at was my stress and how I was managing stress. Keep in mind that working out is stress, okay? It's stress. It's supposed to be good stress, that stress that elevates you, but it's stress nonetheless. And so this is another reason that solidified for me reducing the high intensity workouts so that I can better manage my stress. I still had to address other areas in this wedge in this wheel of health, in this wedge, the stress management. And so increasing other things came into play. For example, breath work before going to bed or in the middle of the day to make sure that I was really tapping into my parasympathetic nervous system. Again, encouraging the body to relax during my stretch sessions, making sure breath work was a part of that. Intentional Sabbath and days that I rested. Intentional rest days became essential as well because inflammation and stress go hand in hand. So if you're experiencing this, evaluating stress levels or stress management is important as well. You cannot out-train inflammation or out-discipline stress. Just letting you know there. So, like I said, the hardest part is deviating from what feels normal. And I get this often with clients. Starting a new program, period, going from not having a workout routine, not having a nutrition routine or rhythm in play to then changing things up can be challenging. It's par for course. Change is challenging, and emotional resistance is real. You want to do the things that you used to do, how you used to do it. It just feels comfortable. So the hardest part necessarily wasn't just the knee pain. Yes, that caused me great grief, but it was really stepping out of my usual rhythms. I said this earlier that I been in this space of high intensity training for well over 10 years, okay? And if you had talked to me about it then, I would have told you I want to be able to do this for the rest of my life. I want to be able to work in that space for the rest of my life. But changing I had to change the workouts that I totally enjoyed for the actual outcome that I really wanted, which was to be able to move well for the duration of my life. Modifying my food choices. If I'm eliminating that, then that means that I have to be prepared to cook, right? If I'm eliminating processed foods from my diet, then maybe those sweet treats, for example, they can't play a major part in my weekend, my rest days. Change can feel like a loss at first. And my husband played a front row seat at that. I don't want to say I was in a depressive state, but I was down. Like, is this gonna be my life now? For some reason, when we go through these things, when we experience bumps in the road, we start to think about always and nevers instead of the temporary place that you're in now. It won't always be like this. It's not like you'll never be able to work out. And I had to reframe some things and really emotionally work through those. This is true, especially for high achieving women. We're used to we're used to doing what we want to do, when we want to do it, how we want to do it, and to have to step back is a humbling experience. So, temporary adjustment is not failure. It does not equal failure. It is actually wisdom. This is where we pause to really get an understanding, and with that understanding, to walk in wisdom. Listening leads to clarity and ultimately strength. And this is the hope, okay? I want to be in the game for a while. I want to be able to help people in this space for a while. So it actually was a good thing that I went through this journey over the last 3 months or so, because speaking from experience, now I am better equipped, one, to help my client deal with the situations, deal with this perceived setbacks that they are experiencing, and coming from that humbling experience. Like, this does not have to always be like this, but let's figure out what works for you. We have to find that place that we can experiment. That's exactly what I did. I experimented instead of forcing the outcome that I truly wanted. I had to take a couple steps back and evaluate what was best in that moment. I had to pay attention to what worked. It may have worked for your friend, but you are an individual. You need to figure out what works for you. And over time, I can sit here today saying that over time the pain has reduced. I'm walking up and down the steps just fine. Squats feel great now. I probably am not at the load that I used to be, a few months ago. However, I am able to work back up to that, I'm sure. My strength is improving as we speak, but most of all, it's the confidence. I cannot explain to you the frustration and the level of irritability that I felt with the process. It did not happen. This situation did not happen overnight. This change, this transformation, trying to get back to myself did not happen overnight. The confidence, the emotional toll that this had is real. I can tell you now that I'm feeling that confidence in my ability coming back. And today I feel great. I'm not saying that this is the end all be all or this will never show up again, but lessons have been learned because I partnered with my body instead of punishing it. My body did not need me to fight it at this moment, force it to happen. It really did need me to listen. And this is what I want to encourage you. If you are going through this, you fill in the blank with your body, and it has taken an emotional toll on you. You're feeling frustrated at this moment. Maybe it is time for you to come from a place of stewardship in real life. This is faith lived out. This is what stewardship looks like, paying attention to what is going on, adjusting with humility. Yes, we might not be able to do what we used to do, but what can we do in this moment? And what makes the best sense to get our bodies back in play. It might mean leaving some things off the table for a while. It might mean stretching yourself outside of your comfort zone by cooking, by, hiring someone yeah, to help you through the process. But most of all, trusting God that He is for you, that He has a plan for you, and He is able to help you through with wisdom and understanding as well. Quiet times, recovery times, times of rest really make a big difference during this time. And again, not forcing the outcomes. We know what we desire, but there's steps to get there, but most of all, not ignoring the signals. Your body is communicating with you, and it is time that we honor the body that God entrusted to us. And sometimes that means changing how we care for it. So, pulling it all together, again, menopause is not betrayal. These symptoms that we are experiencing, and I honed in on knee pain today, but there are others that are associated, and I'm sure I'll hit those over the next few weeks. But the symptoms that we're experiencing here, it's information, and simplicity can lead to sustainability. What do I mean by that? We don't have to do all the things because there's a lot of information out there, but maybe experimenting with one or two things that you can carry across a few weeks. I've been in this restorative space for over 3 months. Maybe you are looking for a little bit of guided help here, a person that helps to guide the adjustments that you make to eliminate some of the guesswork on what you should do, experimenting together so that we can figure out exactly what works for you. That's exactly what I do. I do have a couple of openings for in person personal training. I would love to help you. I would love to figure out what modifications you should make during your training or even in nutrition space. I help with that as well to help you identify some of the foods that are working for you, but also identify some of the foods that are not helping in this situation. That's part of it. The other part of it is the spiritual grounding. During this time, our Bible study, Abide and Flow, we were walking through Philippians. That really helped me to stay focused on the fact that God is my help, that having a unified front and community really makes a difference. And also, we transitioned during this time to Psalms, really bringing to light the attributes of God, His faithfulness, His mercy, His goodness, like all of these things as well helped me emotionally. I said that before, that this journey, yes, it was a physical thing that I was dealing with in the knee pain, but there was also a mental and emotional part of this journey as well. And being in the Word of God definitely helped with that. So, if your body has been trying to get your attention, maybe this is your invitation to listen, not to panic, not to overhaul everything, but to be very intentional about your next move. If there's one thing I want you to take away from today, it is this: that your body is not betraying you, it is communicating. And when we listen with wisdom instead of shame and guilt, we can build health that actually lasts. All right, next week we're going to talk about something many women don't hear enough. And that's why the strength training part of this is one of the most important things that you can do, not just for your menopause body, but for your heart after 40. We're in this for the long haul. We want to be good stewards of the body that God has given to us, and how we approach it without burning ourselves out is very, very important. So if this conversation resonated with you, stay with me over the next few weeks, and we're going to keep simplifying what health looks like in this season together. Have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon.